Here we are with part 2 of my reckless attempt to summarize XCOM Long War of the Chosen. In the previous part we did a liberation of a region and half liberated another, but I don't think we've actually made much progress despite cutting out a massive amount of stuff, so now we're going to go even faster. We start this one off with this relatively pointless looking mission, but I'm showing you this because this is the first time when we can equip the Skulljack before a mission, so we actually have a chance here to do the story objective, which is probably what I should focus on doing. So the actual mission is very unimportant, we don't even need to do this, but we'll try and find an officer to hack. Before that happened though, there was another mission. This is one where we just have to rescue a guy. Again, not all that important, it's not part of the liberation chain or the story, but we'll get a guy if we do it, which is handy, a non-low ranked guy as well. So we'll take an extremely brief look at this mission. It did come up first. Had a classic case where I tried to advance to get into position to shoot the enemy. This time the enemy had another squad right behind them, so very cheeky. Again, never move, that's the XCOM rule. Well, actually, we broke that rule and ended up doing pretty well on our right flank here with this skirmisher, who was just on the edge of the map, so they can't really trigger more pods to come in to fight you, constantly outflanking everybody below this building in the quad area. And got plenty of outflanking shots, and we'll just skip forwards a bit. We did get shot at a bit, and Pyrrhus of Epirus got seriously wounded but didn't die while under fire, and we ultimately complete the mission with no casualties, or no deaths, I should say, and that doesn't really matter. Now here's the one where we have the Skulljack. The mission is just to blow up a statue. It's at the end of this road we're on, which I think does something to increase Advent's strength in the region, but decrease it in other regions, something like that. You're drawing them towards this area. I don't think that's important. Well, we did actually see an Advent officer, and by sheer luck didn't immediately kill this guy. We got a graze on that Overwatch, so the officer is still alive, and now we have a chance to use the Skulljack. However, he's on the right side of the road, and Nobuna, carrying the Skulljack, is on the left, so now I had to do some shenanigans to try and keep the enemy alive a couple more turns, so Nobuna could get into position and do something, because it's a melee attack. Unfortunately, the officer wasn't playing ball. He decides to charge forwards. He was under suppression from that gunner, meaning he takes Overwatch fire if he moves at all. And while the first shot actually missed, a second shot from across the road comes in and hits him. That Overwatch was designed to fight somebody else on the other side of the road, so that was very annoying. There's a bit of luck though. The Joy was outflanked, but actually the enemy missed their shot on her, so that's something. However, the loss of the officer is devastating because now this mission was rather pointless, aside from gaining experience points by killing a few enemies, which we do. From here we clear things up. There aren't many enemies and we're so close to them after sitting around for ages that we could just outflank them and take them out. Here's the end of the mission. We're supposed to be blowing up this thing that's on the screen. I thought it might actually explode. The game just sort of froze for a while, then the mission's over, so nothing happened I guess. But it was a flawless mission with no damage taken and some experience gained. That's something. A liberation mission comes up, so we'll get on that. Now for this one, what I need to do is find whoever has the Skulljack, take it off them and put it on this team so we have another chance to use it. This was my attempt to do that, this make utility items available button. I thought that would strip the Skulljack off whoever had it and make it appear in the equipment pool. It didn't appear there, and I immediately gave up. I didn't go any further than that, so we ended up not having the Skulljack for that mission, which we'll see in a second. First, an earlier mission, which starts with another classic concealment reveal, just running to a random spot, quite near to the deployment zone actually, and getting caught. Well, not much happens on this mission. We just walked across a map and shot a few guys. Lots of easy outflanks on a street once again. So we'll leave that at that. After this, we have another target come up. This time it's just an unimportant resource grabbing mission. However, now I was more determined to find the person with the Skulljack. It was Oda Nobuna, so I just put her squad into the mission. I sent them off, but then immediately after that I realized I could have done something even better, because you can actually build more Skulljacks. I thought you had to make them in the proving grounds, and it took 10 days and a load of resources. Turns out after you get the first one, you can just sort of clone it for a much cheaper price. So I could have had loads of Skulljacks to make this more likely to actually work out. Well, we will next time I remember to equip them on something at the very least. Another internal development, we've got the training center built. This is another key building because it lets you add extra perks to your soldiers. Your soldiers gain ability points. I can't quite remember what you have to do to get them ability points. They might just come with level ups, or maybe it's if you do something specific in battles. Have a vague feeling it's something to do with how you behave specifically. Well, anyway, all they allow you to do is get extra perks that you don't normally get while leveling up, and some of them, like ones that make you immune to Overwatch and things like that, are particularly valuable, so we'll be looking out for some more interesting perks for everybody from now on. Another detail was that I finally went to the black market. I'd been ignoring it thus far, but I've got a faction order active now that makes selling things at the black market more valuable. So I thought I'll go and sell my tons of stuff that I've got in my inventory. I've got loads because I've unbound the amount of loot you can pick up in battles, by the way. You've probably noticed that so far. So we have loads of not necessarily very useful weapon parts and the like, which you can sell for small amounts of supplies. I also, though, have tons of that PCS emergency support. That's an upgrade to your troops that makes them less likely to die, basically, but they happen to be particularly valuable at the moment at the black market. So I go through and sell off a ton of stuff and some other things as well that I thought I didn't really need. You never really know what you're going to need because certain upgrades later require you to have things in your inventory. And then I bought an engineer in particular with the money because that's going to speed up other stuff in the background, like clearing that space out. Now we're moving right on to that liberation mission we just set up. And this time we start things off with a successful ambush. First I snipe across the map to take out a drone. This then triggers the guys I was clustered around with the rest of my squad, and we'll get a ton of Overwatch on them. We don't get the best luck, and a couple of them are still alive after this. But we can fight them some more due to a big combination of things. Firstly, Darius, our sniper, got an extra move due to the death from above perk because he killed something this turn. I used that and his officer ability to transfer his move to this gunner, on which I can then use hail of bullets to turn a 0% shot into a 100% chance shot and grab an extra kill. So all together that makes the situation a little bit better. And the remaining enemy just overwatched, so we can break through that and take him out with an easy outflank. There was an officer present for this mission. Unfortunately, I forgot the Skulljack as earlier mentioned, so we didn't get the chance to do the hack. We did though get an outflanking shot and kill him instantly before he took his first turn. We had one inconvenient moment here where I triggered an enemy pod mid-turn, and Wick on the left flank could be outflanked if the enemy took their turn. Fortunately, I had enough people left to shoot that we killed the two guys closest to us and then got an overwatch killing the other one, so we avoided any potentially deadly fire on Wick, and went on to just assault a couple of enemies close to this thing we're supposed to be blowing up. In the process of blowing it up, there were enemy reinforcements, but we're now on the high ground and we just annihilated them. I think it was only like two guys, that mech and somebody else. So it ended up being quite easy, no damage taken, and that's another of the liberation missions done. Just didn't actually get the hack. Well, maybe next time as ever. And because we've done that liberation mission, the radio tower assault thing now comes up just like before, so we'll send some guys off to do that. We also get this interesting looking mission. A mission to stop Advent doing something. We don't know what they're doing, but they're up to something, and we can stop them if we complete this mission, so that looked important. Decided to send some guys to go and do that one. Next though, we'll look at that semi-pointless supply raid mission or supply stealing mission I went on, because this is the one with Nobuna in the squad, the person with the Skulljack. And as it happened, we got a chance to use it as the fight started. It begins poorly with an unexpected concealment break there. That space looked safe, but wasn't safe by the time I got there, it seems. But there was that Advent officer, and he runs in a different direction to the other two enemies. So now he's just around that corner. I can pop run and gun on Nobuna to take another action this turn, and use that to go around the corner to where the officer must be because our movement was blocked there. And boom, suddenly a chance to use the Skulljack just appeared unexpectedly. Very good, and we do get the Jack. Only a 70% chance of it actually working once you get to this point. There was also a chance of getting a bonus there. We almost got it, very low chance, but just about too low for us to not have it. However, the story objective is complete. Well, it almost is complete. Now that we've done the hack, we also have to defeat a codex that appears, and it's the codex's brain, an item that it drops, which is the story thing you need to actually complete this objective. So now we fight this guy. I use a hail of bullets to almost kill it in one hit. The thing about the codex is that it clones itself once it takes damage, so you want to do as much damage with your first hit as possible. Obviously that will be easier in our double damage mod. So now we face 2 weak codexes. We were actually outflanked by them, but fortunately they didn't fire, they just used magic that ultimately had no particular effect, and we went on to take both of them out. With that, the story goal is done. We could just leave this mission now, but since we're here, might as well fight some enemies just for the experience and maybe actually get some of those supplies, although I wasn't paying too much attention to our actual goal to steal some boxes. We do face a lot of lost along the way as well, and I was making it worse by using explosives. That doesn't really matter, and I think you get a bit of experience for killing lost too, so forcing them to attack you and then just killing them easily might be worth it. I seem to remember from the files you barely get any though for killing lost. Ended up charging a building at the end, and Che Guevara shot a sectoid in the head with a pistol very coolly. We almost failed the mission because I took so long to extract. That's the only time we've actually almost run out of time. I think you fail the mission if you run out of time anyway. I've never actually got to that point. And we come away with no damage taken, and the story is now advanced. Next up, we just have to do a research to progress the plot, which I'll do in the background at some point. But we're out of the annoying RNG zone for now, so that is great. A mission to intercept a convoy comes up. Again, a mission I presume is important, so we're going to do this one. But before that, the next mission I actually did was a rescue mission, another covert action rescue, where you send a small squad to save an even smaller squad from a little ambush. There wasn't too much to this one. The squad that got ambushed immediately kills the enemies that are nearby, because they're all within 1 turn's movement and you can just do some point-blank range shooting to get out of the ambush event. Then it's the real fight after that. Here was an inconvenient move as it turns out. I'm moving to outflank this guy right here. However, I'm now outflanked myself in that direction. And that's the direction I need to go, which proves important because in that direction here's the other squad fighting just next to the extraction point, and some of the guys in that fight started coming back towards the ambushed squad, thus actually getting the outflanking, also revealing Barrett's cover there. And the shooting comes in, hitting Hernana Cortez. One shot takes off 7 health, the next mercifully only does 4 damage due to a graze, thus leaving Cortez alive with only 1 health. That was a close call. From here though, we can fight back quite easily because we can blast at the enemies that were in front of us, who were in many cases also outflanked themselves due to their bad positioning, use a hail of bullets to guarantee a kill, and now things are looking better. From here things are basically fine and we escape with no further incident, just that big wound on Cortez that will keep her out of the game for a while. I'm now starting my new base at New India, hoping to make this the next region we work on. But before we can really do anything here, a special mission comes up. It comes with a tutorial to start with, so you know something different is happening. It's talking about the fact that Advent are going to attack us now in a retaliation mission. It's one that's based vaguely on what your bases are doing, so in this case, because my Indonesian bases are mainly getting supplies right now, due to me turning off all of the intel gathering since we're almost done here, we've got a supply raid mission on us. They're attacking our convoys. And as it also mentioned, the Chosen are going to show up for this one, or one of the Chosen is. So we just have to complete this mission to avoid getting debuffed basically by the enemy's stuff. It's a no infiltration mission, so it happens right away. We're at one end of a road, and we've got our resistance team, our rebels, at the other end of a road. We need to get over there and save them, and stop the convoy being destroyed. And what it's being destroyed by are these guys being dropped right down on top of us. In fact, this squad lands in the middle of where my rebels were set up, which isn't so bad because we're going to have close range overwatch all over the place there. They also teleported in some sectoids we'll have to deal with afterwards. Let's see what the overwatch can do. While we're at close range, the problem is that the rebels have lower stats than regular XCOM soldiers, so we do get tons of point-blank range misses. There's also a debuff for being on Overwatch. Luckily, we kill all but one of the squad despite the misses, so just one enemy there who's going to be super easy to outflank, of course, being right in front of us. That's all good. Then the sectoids, well, they're going to be more of an issue because with 4 sectoids on the field, that's potentially 4 mind-controlled rebels to be dealing with. We'll just have to see what they do. And we have the Chosen getting involved. It's the sword one. There are 3 Chosens, if you don't know, who will have different abilities. This is the one that stabs you up in melee for the most part, and has the additional advantage of being invisible unless you've just damaged them or something. I forget the exact rules. So they're now out there somewhere. The game also warns us that in this mod they're more powerful than usual. In particular, whenever you damage a Chosen, they can take an immediate extra move during your turn and just counterattack you effectively. Well, we'll see that in action in a second as it happens. To start with, I used my Resistance Mech, a special reward for a covert action I think, to damage 2 of the sectoids. We can now finish them off with a regular grenade, their health is so low. I then moved up to kill the nearest sectoid with a point-blank range shotgun attack, but doing so revealed the Chosen was standing right next to it, so I thought, well, I might as well fire at the Chosen instead and guarantee that we've taken off half of its health to begin with. Not such a bad start. Although now, we're going to see that counterattack thing that I just mentioned. It's going to get a move that it uses to just kill the guy who fired the shotgun. Although somebody was on Overwatch, so we get even more damage. Indeed, the rebel dies instantly. That's not so bad because the rebels are somewhat replaceable. We do lose some resource gathering potential for having the rebel be dead, but I think in the Indonesian region we have spare rebels who weren't doing anything because there is a maximum limit on the number you can use at once. We had more than that, so I can take casualties just fine. And as we saw, the tactical situation it left us with was really good because the Chosen had just taken that move during our turn, leaving them out of cover with more of our turn to take. So there is a double-edged sword aspect to that thing where they can act in your turn, I think. We immediately just get the kill with an outflanking shot. And that's that. The Chosen is taken out early on in the mission before any real shenanigans and before their first actual full turn. So that might have saved us some trouble, probably worth sacrificing the rebel to get this. The sectoids don't achieve too much with their turn. They only got 1 mind control successfully and they've got 2 zombies out, which is a waste of their time. So that's all good. A snipe kills 1 and kills 1 of the zombies. We then throw a grenade that finishes off those 2 sectoids. That's going to kill another zombie and remove a mind control. Now things are fine, we just outflank and kill the final one. Another enemy squad comes down, but it comes down right in the middle of where my XCOM operatives are set up, so they're going to take a lot of Overwatch. The game does warn you that this is about to happen, so you can have the time to set up in Overwatch ready to fire as the enemy deploy. In this case, we kill all of them, so they're not going to get to do anything, and even if we didn't kill them, we'd still get a turn before they did. Then some more come in the next turn, 2 teleported pods. I'm presuming the game kind of calculates your average position and tries to put them right on top of you, because again, they're right in the middle of all my guys on Overwatch. It's probably supposed to be annoying, but it's pretty handy because we get this free round of Overwatches right away, and at close range they're quite likely to actually hit. And indeed, we take out tons of these snakes, apart from the first one, which was probably immune to Overwatch or something. As for this second squad, we're now running out of Overwatches, so we can't shoot all of them down, but we do get the first guy to move, that sectoid. And then, as mentioned, we get our turn before they do, and we're at close range with all of our operatives ready to shoot. We just absolutely blast everything without flanking, close range, 100% chance to hit shots. And of course with double damage, that's probably going to kill them off as well. Probably could have done it without the double damage, in fact, because we still had more damage to spare to do this turn. Overall, that was a very successful mission. We killed a Chosen and killed tons of enemies with only a rebel lost, which probably doesn't really matter. You don't get anything for doing this mission, so it's no massive victory, but we avoided losing something, and that's useful. Here though is a more important mission where there is something to be gained, the Radio Tower Assault mission for Indonesia. To start this one off, I planned to ambush 2 enemy squads at the same time. First I'm firing across this building towards my right, hoping there to grab a kill on an officer that we didn't get due to grazing damage. That's unfortunate. So that triggers a pod over there to our right in general. I hoped to not overwatch too much in that direction. We end up using the 2 overwatches I set up on them, leaving one guy still alive, unfortunately, who now outflanks us. And then the other squad I was hoping to ambush at the same time is in front of us. I had left 2 party members without Overwatch ready to do something against the enemy once they moved. I had to use a hail of bullets to stop myself being outflanked on the right. However, the Advent mech right in front of us is also outflanking us, and I didn't kill it when I attacked it, so now we're in trouble. A grenade comes in and damages Raiden, and here comes some more damage, a point-blank range attack. Possibly he would have survived if the grenade hadn't happened as well. Well, he actually is still alive, he's bleeding out, so we can save him if we clear up the situation pronto. A snipe takes out the mechs, and now that part is clear. It was difficult to advance due to an enemy overwatching, but I used a combination of a flashbang and our command order on Darius to allow Caesar here to run really far during his turn and put himself in a position to outflank this enemy officer. But it's actually an advanced officer, a superior version of this enemy with more health. So I can't one-shot it like I usually would. I can though try and use my special shotgun ability on this guy's class, where you have a short-range, high-damage attack you can use from time to time, and boom, it does hit and takes out the officer. A couple of sectoids and a snake are now ahead of us in cover engaging us. The real action though is still at the back, the guy who was overwatching me earlier dodges 2 overwatches to run behind our lines and start shooting at us from back there. Very inconvenient, our skirmisher takes a bunch of damage. We advance mostly because I wanted to take out the sectoid as soon as possible to avoid any shenanigans. There's another sectoid back there, sector 2. A snipe kills the snake before it does anything too annoying. My plan now was to flashbang the remaining sectoid because I thought that would prevent a panic that it had induced on our gunner on the right there and allow me to act again with the gunner this turn. That's why I allowed that guy behind my lines to just survive this turn. I was planning on getting an extra move. I didn't get that extra move, and we take more damage on the skirmisher as a result. This guy's kind of annoying now because he's in a position where to outflank him I have to stand in a really dangerous spot with my flank exposed to the general direction of the enemy. Well, I took out the sectoid, gathered we weren't close enough to another pod for this to be too risky, and then took out the remaining guy. So that's that. We can now get Raiden back on his feet and generally take stock and get ourselves back together. While I'm doing that though, there is a reinforcement pod that comes down just in front of us. We managed to kill one of them with Overwatch. As for the other 2, we just use all of our attacks this turn and we're able to kill them before they get their first offensive turn. So nothing too bad happens there, and we carry on. We need to take the room as before, the one containing the hack point, and it's still quite difficult to take because of those narrow bridges leading into it. There was a berserker inside who was killed by a combination of shooting and Overwatch. Then a heavy shot with a plasma rifle comes out and almost kills Caesar there. He gets hit again, but it's grazing damage, thus saving his life. Another very close call. Grazing damage seems to be helping us in this campaign so far, even though it's annoying when it happens to you. As for our attack, it was difficult to get in here because it's a long run to get into the building. I tried using a hail of bullets to take out one of the mutons. This just about failed, but we got lucky with a grazing damage snipe that finishes that guy off. The other muton eventually came outside when I just sat still, and I was able to kill him easily because of that. As for the final enemy, he's in heavy cover, it's hard to get in there, but I can use the Shred Storm Cannon, a special weapon that you can fire once per mission on certain classes. I think it's guys who have the exo suit equipped actually. Well, as you can see, it just does some damage through cover, so we take out that guy easily. It was more powerful than I thought, should have used it earlier in the mission. And we go on to hack the thing, but with several very large wounds on valuable party members, so that's annoying. Because we've done the tower mission, the liberation mission, the final one, now comes up. I actually started setting up for this and then cancelled it to come back later, as we'll see in a second. While that later was happening, we had another mission. It's a convoy raid mission. It started off particularly well with a full ambush where we killed all of this first squad, despite a whole bunch of misses actually. The real star of the show was the Reaper we just saw there. I've got the Reaper now equipped with the upgraded Vector rifle that does loads of damage. Combined with the serial ability that lets you take another shot if you get a kill, combined with this being a double damage sub-mod I've made for myself, I'm able to kill 3 enemies with 1 character's round of shooting, although that was only a 37% chance, that final shot. Very good, so we clear out the initial enemies and it just goes fine after that. I used the supplies I got from doing that convoy raid mission to upgrade some more stuff, so that this team going off here to do the liberation mission has some more armor and weapons to play with. So we'll see how they get on later. For what I want to do next, I was going to go for India, but I realized I need to get to Eastern US to unlock the Black Site raid mission, which you have to do for the plot. So I thought we'd better actually get that option available before it becomes too difficult or something. So we're going to start by attacking the Western US to get there. This first mission that comes up isn't actually part of the liberation, but it's something to stop Advent from doing something else, so we'll do that. And on that topic, here's the mission I set up earlier to stop Advent from doing something. We now actually know what they were trying to do at this location. They were going to advance the Avatar project, so doing this will buy us more time in the campaign in general. That's probably a good thing. It starts off well, with the first encounter being effectively solved by using a hail of bullets to remove a mind control, then we can take out the first squad. The second 2 squads we fought at the end of the mission, right next to the thing we have to destroy. I made it easier for myself with this successful hack. We take out one of the Advent mechs in the middle of the fight, then we can just ignore it and focus fire on other things. We do take a hefty grenade here though, with 6 damage being done to Kojima, I think that was, so he's near death. Luckily no more hits come in for him, and in our turn we get busy just going full offensive. We actually didn't take out all of the enemies with our offensive rush, but the one enemy that was left just missed his attack in his turn, and then we spend another turn taking this one guy out. It actually took 3 attacks to kill this one enemy due to everybody constantly missing at point blank range. You can see the troops around that guy there. Then we blow up the alien thing to stop them doing their thing. Now back to North America. A mission comes up to free a scientist. We're going to do that one, but that wasn't the mission I was looking for. We want to get a liberation going if possible, and that's the next mission that comes up, so we'll go and do that as well. But first, the other mission I had going in North America triggers. This is another mission to stop Advent doing a thing. I think the thing was a dark event to give them Overwatch after moving, or to remove one they already have. Well, something's going on here. It's not all that important, and you can see it starts off going pretty well. Even though we lost concealment immediately, we were above the enemy and had easy outflanks. So we just shot them down, moved on, faced some more enemies, just a few who are at close range, and again, easy to outflank, so they're gone. And everything turns out fine in the end. We even extract the VIP rather than kill them. I think this gives us a bit of extra Avenger power or something, don't quite remember. Now on to the next mission. We're going to steal a scientist for ourselves. There's the first kill of the mission against a priest who is easily outflanked. Then skipping forwards a bit, here's an interesting part. I hacked one of the control towers and was able to get this deception buff, which gives you control of an enemy. And we get control of a mech who is in a squad that hasn't been aggroed, and the only other squad member was a priest there, so we could instantly almost kill the priest. I then moved on to kill other guys at the back, because the enemy troops don't regard a mech that you've hacked as an enemy, it seems, so they ignore you. I could just shoot people in the face, although I ultimately had to put my mech down after it proved a bit disobedient, and we easily completed that mission, grabbing the scientist and some stuff. I sold off a ton of my stuff actually at this stage to get some cash to buy that power relay. We're building the relay on top of the power conduit thing in the base, so we'll have tons of power later and won't have to worry about that, not that I'm commentating on that. A mission comes up to rescue some resistance personnel, an unimportant mission I might normally just skip, but in this case I decided to do it to help build up our West American base with extra members. And here we are in the liberation mission I set up earlier. It's another classic lose concealment with my first move mission, which is the most common thing to happen actually. These drones just seem to be a bit more prevalent and able to see you, I guess, compared to my old XCOM 2 experiences. I don't quite remember. This is the first mission where we saw the nano machines enemy. It's that guy in the building I'm trying to kill with a rocket there. I was trying to expose his cover so I could shoot him. I actually did that successfully, but because I discovered that pod late in my turn, he successfully shoots and hits Kojima. Kojima would have died from that shot, but again, we got that grazing damage, which is like 10% chance to happen. We keep having guys not die due to grazing damage, so it's certainly paying off. And the enemy didn't move out of their no-cover spot, so we just shot them down. Also discovered this, the Void Conduit on the Templar, one of the abilities I've unlocked, is really good. It just takes an enemy and puts them in a thing, and then they can't move, so that enemy's effectively dead for tactical purposes. We can freely move up, and by the time the Void Conduit is gone, we've got a shotgun in his face. I actually had the chance to Skulljack that guy. I think you get some more intel if you Skulljack people further to the story objectives. Didn't end up doing it. I actually didn't even discover all the enemies on the map. I just ended up leaving once I did the objective because I couldn't be bothered, although I killed some reinforcements that dropped right down on top of me along the way. And that was that. It was overall an easy liberation mission, although a 30+ day wound on Kojima. I realized I had enough intel to make contact with the eastern US. That's what we actually need to be doing right now. So we'll do it. I could make it cheaper by building a radio tower in Western US first, but that takes time and supplies, and I thought I might as well just actually get on with this. We slapped down a bunch of recruiting guys in there to make the base bigger while we're away. And in Western US, everybody is doing intel instead. We're still going to focus on Western US for now for our missions. I think I could do the Black Site mission now that I've got Eastern US unlocked. There is a supply raid mission that comes up in Western US. The time limit is a little bit tight on this one, and it looks like we're not going to do it, but I decided to use for the first time the boost system, which I'll do later on essentially. You can just get some more infiltration by spending intel on it, so we'll have to do that for that mission. Before that though, we have an attack on our base at Indonesia. Very inconvenient because I could have done the liberation mission before this to avoid this attack. I was just waiting to get max infiltration. This is a mission where we just have to rescue a bunch of guys from a map. They're all across the map, and the more you rescue the better. There are no enemies to start with, apart from this Chosen, which we accidentally stumble across while trying to rescue one of the rebels. So what I did for the Chosen is use the lesson of our last encounter to set up a trap. I knew it was going to run after I made my first attack, so I set up 4 overwatches around the Chosen ready to shoot, thus potentially killing it before it gets its next attack. Well, it's not quite that simple as you can see, because a couple of the overwatches miss, one of them does 1 damage, and there's another miss as well. So that overwatch plan went way worse than I was hoping, and damage comes in on nuke. However, the Chosen is already nearly dead, and I've got more guys who can shoot this turn. Came in with the shotgun attack. Unfortunately, it's grazing damage, so the Chosen remains. I think they actually might have survived if that was full damage as well, depending on what the RNG of the damage was. At least I still have this 100% chance to hit attack as well, although it also does grazing damage, 1 damage specifically, and the Chosen is still alive, getting a 3rd attack on nuke this turn, and that's just too much. Nuke is out of there. He's actually not going to die because the Chosen uses its turn to teleport him away. So even though he was bleeding out, I think he'll now be considered alive, but he's in enemy captivity. This boosts the enemy's intel of you, which only really is important if they have loads of intel of you. We'll get to that at some point if we need to. I think we can rescue him later in one of the VIP rescue type missions. We'll have to see. Well, at least we do kill the Chosen in the next turn with our first attack, so that's that out the way. Then we get to the bit of the mission where the enemy starts spawning all over the place while we're withdrawing the rebels. It does say there that Nuke has died. I think that's because his bleed out timer just ran out. Well, he's not here. I think he's still alive somewhere. I've yet to find out, actually. We'll see, I suppose. So we sit around killing enemies as they drop out of the sky and teleport in, while trying to get all of the non-combatants off the map. And we do collect everybody on the map and get them running towards the extraction point. The problem is that's going to take some time, and the enemies spawn every single turn during this part of the mission, so there are just enemies all over the place. Here's a moment where Eli, the guy who was furthest away from the extraction point, stops to kill somebody through a wall just for fun on the way back. This was a bad idea because he was actually still concealed due to being a shinobi class. So he's now out there on his own in roughly the middle of the map while everybody else is being extracted. This leads to a not particularly favourable scenario where he's trying to escape while fighting absolutely billions of enemies. I still had this mech though. I thought I'll put the mech in the middle of all the enemies. It will serve as a nice distraction, maybe kill something along the way as well, and Eli might be able to escape. However, the enemy get this sweet overwatch shot while the mech was jumping through the air. Nice shooting, and there are some more enemies just to add to the pile. So we're in trouble, and basically Eli gets absolutely annihilated just before he gets to the extraction point, unfortunately. So we end up taking another casualty. That's 2 dead if you count Nuke as being somewhat dead, possibly dead to us unless we save him at some point. It actually lists 3 dead because the mech counts as a casualty as well. That sucks, and the 2 reasons it sucks is 1, I probably could have just played that mission better and that wouldn't have happened, and 2, if I'd done this mission already, which was available at the same time, I think it would have stopped that raid mission on the Haven base from actually happening. Well, it's happened now, we're bronze manning through it. It's time for the big attack on the New Indonesia base. There was no big ambush this time because there were a couple of drones and a turret close to our deployment zone on the outside of the base. We have to go through this area basically to get anywhere else. So just had to break concealment to get rid of them. We'll do this the hard way. we do encounter a pod that would have been amazing to ambush. Tons of enemies are just on the other side of this building. We unfortunately discovered them during our turn by opening that door. And now they're all back there. I don't have any rocket launcher guys in this squad actually, so I couldn't have done a massive ambush like before. Well, we go over and around this building and start to fight. Shooting down from the roof somehow counts as outflanking. That usually isn't the case, but we kill one like that. We've got Miller coming around the right who gets a kill. We've got Cypher at the back who kills a stun lancer who had snuck through the building and damaged Wick. And we've got Barrett coming around the left, taking out a trooper who was also sneaking down this alley over here with a terrible camera shot there. The enemy don't really do much in their turn, just overwatching and sitting around, and we just plow on forwards, grabbing more damage. We get this nice shot through 2 windows with our Reaper that takes out a priest and gets rid of some overwatch for us. I think the priest was buffing somebody as well. One of the enemies had run up to be on the roof. Barrett uses a sword attack to deal with that. And then a hail of bullets gets the last guy out of cover after I almost killed him with a bunch of grenades. And that was that. We ultimately get through that first big pod quite easily, easier than expected actually. There was another squad just next to the building, so here we are fighting that. We take out a mech easy enough. We then get this lucky enough shot against an enemy in cover to remove one more. That enemy was suppressed at the same time, so a bit of a waste really. This enemy moves forward and dodges a couple of overwatches, but the last one gets the hit and blows that purifier up. Fortunately, it hadn't moved forward far enough that the explosion damaged us. That would have been the risk. This leaves just that one snake to deal with. I was going to easily outflank it with Miller and just go for the one-shot kill, but doing so exposes my flank to further into the map, and there is a turret back there that can now see Miller. So if I shoot, the turret will probably shoot me. With that in mind, I decided to run back into that nice heavy cover corner. I didn't really need to do that as it turns out, because in the same turn, Tifa from the roof of that first building shoots and crits the turret, killing it immediately, so Miller would have been safe for this turn I think, to take out the snake. And that's important because of what happens during the snake's turn. Here's me moving up Eva and setting up an overwatch kind of near the snake, and I show this in the footage because it's not going to help, basically. This is just me complaining. The snake does move forward without triggering that overwatch, and outflanks and shoots Miller, getting the crit and the instant kill. So that absolutely sucked. I did not expect that at all. I at least expected the overwatch to be triggered by that move. There are rules about what can trigger overwatch, and sometimes the first or last tile of your move can't trigger it in certain circumstances, or sometimes line of sight is just weird and Eva really couldn't see just over there. Who knows? Well, we can move to be right next to the snake and take it out, so that's something at least. However, this isn't the end of our fight. We don't have a bit of time to pick up all this loot, for example, because as I try to pick up those 2 loot pieces with Wick, we trigger some more enemies coming in on our left. This turns out to not be so bad, because we get this snipe with Darius the Great against something, an explosive thing that set off some other explosives at the same time and killed a Muton. There was a Berserker who just got shot while running towards us. This left one last Muton who ran away. We'll see him towards the end. Then I moved up vaguely towards the right side of the map and discovered another massive enemy pod, and it's the one with the Advent General in it, and if you were looking closely there, the General is wearing a monocle, a man of true class it seems. We end up with a tricky encounter, loads of enemies back there, kind of too far away from a lot of my squad, because I was more spread out thinking we might encounter the enemy on the left of the map still. So we start concentrating and making some attacks. For our first turn, we're only able to take out the mech and the turret, so all of the other stuff will now get to attack. The General wastes his turn basically shooting at someone in heavy cover who's above. That must have been a very low chance to hit attack. However, this stun lancer goes for the same target and it's more successful. We get unconsciousness on Eva there. That's worse than just being stunned, the usual effect of the stun lancer. Now somebody has to go and revive Eva to get her back into the fight, and of course the stun lancer is still there. Everyone else just sits around and goes into Overwatch, so that's okay. A snipe takes out the stun lancer. I then shoot at a downed drone that was back there somewhere. One of my techs had deactivated an enemy drone. This kill triggers the serial ability on my Reaper, allowing me to shoot again this turn, taking out one of the easy to hit enemies. We also had a chance to shoot that scout there out of cover. Unfortunately, maximum memes weren't engaged. We didn't get that extra kill. Had to use a hail of bullets to kill the scout and remove the Overwatch. After that, the enemy wasted their turn, so we're in luck. They just shuffled up and overwatched again. No attacks were made against us, so we're fine now. A shot from a building takes out a troop. I'm able to revive Eva using Cypher's drone, something I forgot I could actually do and discovered too late. So now Eva's back in the fight for this turn. You can see we're enduring some suppression from the enemy gunner, which is kind of loud and annoying. Luckily, our Reaper can shoot this guy out of heavy cover. The aim bonuses on the Reaper are just out of control. Normally that would have been 100% without my stuff to make cover more valuable. Then a couple of drones and the Muton from earlier show up to join the fight. The Advent General is just doing nothing at the base of the building. I was worried he would have some sort of psychic abilities, but he was just moving around and marking targets, which was completely pointless and did nothing. So he ends up getting shot easily. The drones got sniped, as we saw, and as for the Muton, I move up to outflank it with Cypher, and that's that. There was still one more encounter on this map, which was a full 10 minutes later because I was moving around so carefully. I eventually, in the last place I looked, found 3 snakes right in the back corner of the base. A hail of bullets takes out one, and I can easily shoot one out of cover as well with the Reaper. I used Serial here because I spent so long looking for these guys, all of my powerful abilities had come back, I could try them again. Unfortunately we don't get the Serial, but I do go in for a more stylish kill with Barrett getting the sword attack on that Viper. So that's that. Another region is liberated, which also sets the Avatar project back. I didn't even realize it did that. That's very useful, but of course we did take that one casualty. Who knows whether that will be important? Hopefully not. We've still got like 30 guys left, should be enough to keep going. Here's the mission we didn't have enough infiltration on. So we'll do that boost infiltration thing I mentioned. I think it costs 25 intelligence, which is actually quite a lot, so you shouldn't do this much. But I remember reading in the tutorial information for this mod that you should avoid doing a less than 100% infiltration mission like at all costs, because the enemy will spam reinforcements at you and it will be much harder than it looks. And there are all sorts of other things that the infiltration score affects. I think it makes the enemy more likely to overwatch and hit you with their overwatch if you go into low infiltration missions as well. And some other things as well, I can't even remember. There's loads. I remember looking at them when modding this mod and seeing it does all kinds of random little things secretly in the background to make the game harder if you don't have infiltration. We get a successful ambush and we'll basically just cut to an interesting moment in this fight, which contradicts something I said earlier. I managed to hack and take control of an enemy mech, but this time the enemy didn't just ignore it, they actually actively killed it, which I suppose helps me out as well, but I wasn't able to use it to outflank and get a guaranteed kill on an enemy. Maybe it's different when you hack them via a direct hack into the mech versus hacking them via a tower, which is what I did before. So that all goes fine. Here's that mission to rescue some resistance personnel, and some rookies too, which is actually quite good because I'm not able to recruit any more soldiers at this point in the game. I've got all of them already in XCOM, all of them that are in the game, quote unquote. I don't know why we can't recruit anymore. So doing a mission that unlocks new rookies is actually kind of useful because it might future-proof us a little bit so we have at least somebody later in case everybody else dies. It starts off well with a not particularly interesting ambush against some drones. Here's a nice run from the main man off ED, finally back in the game after being wounded for a really long time. He makes that crazy charge and kills somebody, but gets himself into trouble at the same time because it triggers this heavy mech to move to a position that means it will outflank him during its turn. However, OVD is saved by somebody else hacking the mech and shutting it down, so no close range blasting or anything like that. We actually still almost get outflanked. Well, we do get outflanked, but this enemy doesn't shoot at off-ED. That would have been some big guaranteed damage, maybe even a kill if we weren't very lucky, since that's an advanced officer using superior gear. But it wasted its turn using a mark, just like that Advent General did in the recent base attack mission, and we get away with everything, all good stuff. So after that, our western US base is now pretty heavily stacked with these rebels, and we're going to have them all on intel gathering to look for liberation missions as much as possible. And they're sufficiently good at it that even though we're not there, they are finding things for us. Unfortunately, this isn't a liberation mission, it's a mission to stop a dark event. I don't know if that dark event actually matters, but I decided to go on this one just in case it does, basically, and because we're not doing that much else at the moment. And then after that, did some more scanning and I did find the mission I was looking for. A liberation mission where we'll also get a scientist, always handy. So we'll set up for that, but first here's that interdiction mission to stop the dark event. We get a somewhat successful ambush here. Unfortunately, I don't get a kill on that priest because of the thing where priests sometimes don't die. I think anyway, maybe I actually didn't do enough damage. Loads of overwatch on the priest and it all misses, so that sucks. Luckily, Belisarius there gets 2 overwatches because of one of his perks, and he does kill the Lancer that was coming in behind the priest. There's a drone coming in as well, and we also get an overwatch on that, so that's something not very important. Now later on in this fight, we end up triggering an enemy pod that's on our left with a late turn move, meaning we're in trouble, because the enemy can easily move to outflank people who moved earlier in my turn, and that's exactly what's happening here, and that's why Belisarius takes that massive bit of damage. Luckily he had high level armor on and had tons of health, so he doesn't quite die despite being hit by the crit there, but that will be an absolutely enormous wound on him for sure. Then I make a mistake, because with Moya here, for some reason I had it in my mind that she was immune to Overwatch or broke Overwatch with her lightning reflexes or something like that. Well, no, I just run into Overwatch and take a bunch of damage. Luckily it was grazing damage, and Moya is wearing the Wraith armor, this time legitimately acquired through the research. So she actually has tons of health, and it's not that bad, but still a bit of a stupid move. We didn't need to take that wound. She'll be out of the game for a while after this as a result. We move on to kill those enemies, and then we have to attack this dance floor where a VIP is still refusing to get off the floor. The beat is just too powerful. Well, luckily these soldiers are there to protect them. We get some really good overwatches though. In the enemy's deployment phase, as they're just moving towards us, we kill 2 of the 4 guarding the area, and that makes it really easy to storm in and capture the whole place. We also capture the VIP. In this case, for capturing instead of killing, we get 25 bonus intel, which is about the amount I wasted doing that boost to infiltration for the mission earlier. So maybe that's made up for all that. Those 2 wounds are annoying though, and the one on Belisarius will be well over a month, a pretty serious deal. We are going to have something to help with the wounds though, momentarily. A supply raid mission comes up, not that important, but looks like I decided to do it, so that'll be coming up in a second. Here's the development. We've got the infirmary now. This lets you put a scientist in here and reduce wound recovery times by 50%, or maybe it increases healing rate by 50%. It's either twice as good or 50% as good, basically. Something's going on there, so wounds are less bad. Now here we are rejoining the action. In the next liberation mission for West America, we're just rescuing a scientist, and we get a pretty good ambush this time. We don't break concealment immediately in a miraculous twist, and actually ambush a whole bunch of enemies at the same time, which is technically a bad thing. I effectively triggered 3 pods at once with this concealment break, but the first pod was entirely wiped out by the shooting, so it's not that bad. And this pod on the left only has 2 guys in it, and one of them gets killed immediately. The one on the right also only had 2 enemies. So we end up facing only 3 enemies for the actual fight. Make that 2 because I had a hail of bullets left over after the shooting I could use to kill another enemy before their turn. So it does end up being a successful ambush despite the risk, although some return fire actually hits us up on the roof, relatively unlikely to happen, and we take a bunch of damage onto Montgomery, I think it was. Then while Pyrrhus is running forwards to kill that enemy, we trigger some more enemies, another annoying move, the XCOM classic. Luckily nothing too bad is going to come of this because those guys back there didn't do that much in the end, and we did get that kill we were going for, so that's something. We actually did have a close call because Pyrrhus ran up to one of the mutons in his turn and didn't quite kill it. Luckily a grenade came in to finish off that muton and effectively finish the battle. It says there's an enemy remaining. That was just because the VIP counts as an enemy, so we rescued the VIP, and that's all that. Now there I was just selling some things at the black market to get some more cash. That's because I finished making another spot in the Avenger, and we need to build the Shadow Chamber, a special version of the research lab, effectively, that researches different things. And we're going to need that for the plot. It takes forever to build it, and it took forever to make this gap for it. But eventually we will be ready to advance the plot there. Then an unexpected mission comes up. There's one of these reprisal things, well, not a haven attack, a supply convoy raid, where the Chosen is going to show up and just get up to some shenanigans, and if you don't stop them, we'll lose our supply income from New India. So here we are. It's the same sort of mission we did before, where you're just defending some trucks against reinforcement squads that appear all over you. But because they appear at close range and amongst your troops who are all on Overwatch by that point, you pretty much always get a free round of shooting before they get to do anything. In fact, you get 2 free rounds of shooting because you get your turn as well. Here's our first encounter with a Chrysalid, a melee enemy, who dies immediately. Maybe we'll see them in action in the future. We don't get the best overwatching actually on these squads, but because they end up right next to you and it's your turn after they've appeared, you can just outflank them and kill them immediately. However, we will also have to deal with the Hunter. I think this is our first encounter with this Chosen, the Sniper Chosen, who likes to sit in the corner and kill you. But he's actually a bit less dangerous than I thought he was going to be because, well, here's essentially what he did every turn. He kept repositioning. Nice Overwatch miss there. This guy has a bonus defense against Overwatch, so he's hard to shoot while moving. But as you can see, he's not shooting back. He just ran forwards and then ran backwards again. And that's effectively what he's going to be doing every turn in this fight, as it turns out. So he is really not very effective, leaving me free to shoot at the guys who keep appearing all over the place. Plenty of Overwatch misses and grazes coming in, very annoying. But we've got so much stuff on Overwatch, since we have the Rebel squad here as well, which adds like 5 or 6 extra soldiers, that all together we're doing the business. There he is again, just doing that. He did that every single turn. Completely useless performance from the Chosen Hunter. Eventually I just ran right up to him to get this fight started. I went in for this nice attack that was going to half kill him, but due to grazing damage, only a quarter kills him. And of course the Chosen get an extra move when you attack them. Fortunately, he uses it again to just move about a bit. That's not going to achieve too much. He does have a surprise for me though. His Overwatch triggers in an unexpected way. That Rebel, when moving, got shot when it didn't say he was going to trigger Overwatch. Normally it tells you on the floor which tiles are in the enemy's Overwatch line of sight. Perhaps with the Chosen, it doesn't do that to make things a bit more challenging. Luckily, everybody else moved this turn without triggering it by sheer chance, I suppose, so that was good. I also had this annoying shot, 0% chance to hit because he's technically in full cover under the XCOM cover rules. Very frustrating. Well, luckily he's still not up to much. Some more enemies appear. We get a nice bad round of Overwatches, but to hit on a Purifier causes an explosion that wipes out that nice large squad. Pretty good stuff in the end. There's another squad appearing at the same time. Unfortunately, we've used up so much of our Overwatch we can't wipe them out. But there is one more explosion somehow, I'm not even sure where that one came from. Well, that's all good. As for the Hunter, well, he's going to do nothing. That's good news for us. At this stage, I thought let's just close in and seal the deal. So here's my big move. I'm going to use Banish on our Reaper. Banish is a special attack that shoots all of your ammunition in the same shooting round, although each shot is less and less likely to hit. So basically, I'm going to shoot 5 times at the Reaper, and then he'll get his extra move. We grab a hit doing a bit of damage, and then we just keep shooting. This is pretty much what we want to do with my double damage mod, because of course it's going to make the Chosen twice as easy to kill. And if they're not attacking me, which in this battle they weren't, then we don't face the downside of double damage. This is just straight up an advantage over the usual mod setup. Very handy. Unfortunately, we don't get the kill despite the massive damage potential of that use of Banish due to 2 misses and that laser vector rifle not actually being all that good. But the Chosen was left with 1 health, so a grenade from one of the rebels finishes it off, and then we just have to kill an enemy pod. And since we have like 15 soldiers on the field, that's going to be easy enough. We just blast all over the place. The battle ends with a priest who refused to die getting overwatched, and that was that. Our supplies are saved, the Chosen is once again defeated, and there were minimal shenanigans. It went much better than it could have if the AI was paying attention. Next up, we've got a somewhat pointless Find the Lead mission, one of the missions that starts the Liberation chain, but we've done it already. I was just doing this one because I needed the intel. Having more intel is virtually always useful until you have every base on the map, and we have several bases more we need to get, in particular to get towards the Black Site mission for the story. As for this mission, we easily take out a Berserker and a Snake in the background with a hail of bullets. We also took out a drone so far, I think. We do take a hit though from this Mech Archer. This is why I didn't increase the guaranteed damage levels in my double damage mod, because attacks like that from across the map can just straight up kill you. So one of our new recruits takes a bunch of damage but luckily doesn't die. There's an officer theoretically wasting his turn with a mark and shot on heavy cover, but he actually does get the hit, which was just very unlikely to happen. Oh well, it doesn't really matter because that was a high health guy who won't take much of a wound. We have 3 snipers in this team. We're very overpowered sniper-wise, so we just blast away in our turn, grabbing kills, and then we run up and shoot stuff. That officer gets revenged by Scipio Africanus with that Overwatch shot. And really that's the end of that. We're going to move straight on to that supply mission I set up earlier. And this was another good mission, not only because there weren't many enemies on the field, but we got great RNG with where the crates you need to pick up are. They were all clustered on one side of the map, quite close to where we deployed, So I was able to get most of them without fighting most of the enemies, and once we encounter most of the enemies here at the back corner of the map, we're going to try out for the first time the blaster bomb. This is a version of the rocket launcher which you can only fire once from a max rank technical or a high rank technical, but it actually hits the place you click, so you're guaranteed to get the effect you need. Here I'm able to take out a snake and blow up a building that I knew an enemy Spectre was inside, who then appears as a result and takes a bit of fall damage from falling off a ledge. Not too much really. We then get all of the remaining enemies locked together in an area suppression, so that gives us loads of free overwatch on them when they try to move, plus I had some normal overwatch going. We take out the first two enemies there, then this guy runs forward and takes a normal overwatch as well. With that, the battle is pretty much won in a few brief engagements, and we come away with all of the supplies on the map, which amounts to this much. The most important one there will be the alien alloys. We need those to make more armors and weapons, and we are still lacking a full complement of the next level, or the second level even, of armor and weapons. We have the third level available and the fourth level is in the pipe, I think, research-wise, but we're nowhere near being able to afford any of that stuff. There's now a covert ops rescue mission. These missions are usually quite easy as well because there aren't many enemies on the field, and because the first engagement you get, you're almost guaranteed to be next to the enemy and can just outflank them. Did some rocket attacks to damage one of the enemy pods, which triggered a bunch of loss to appear, but that really good trench gun shot, an area of effect shotgun attack, takes out loads of them at the same time. I don't think that's a guaranteed damage attack, by the way. Those trench shot things can actually miss. It was our first time seeing a Muton Centurion, a powerful enemy infantry unit, although it just died because we ran up to it and overwhelmed it with close range fire, and we ultimately escape without killing all of the enemies on the map, but with no wounds, and escaping is all we need to do in this case. Another convoy raiding mission comes up. It's one with not many days of infiltration available, so I was a little bit hesitant to do this, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I won't be able to take my usual 8, I'll be down to something like 6. Normally, in regular War of the Chosen, you'd only be able to take like 3 or 4 to a mission with 4 days infiltration without some shenanigans being done to make yourself a little bit more infiltratey. Well, we'll see that in a second. There's also another low infiltration mission, or relatively low, that comes up, which we're going to send another small-ish squad on. Here's the first one though. Now I was ready to set up a nice ambush here. We're quite close to an enemy pod and still concealed because they're walking onto me, which stops you being revealed unless you move. However, while getting ready to start shooting, I set this Overwatch up on Pyrrhus, and he apparently has this negative trait that I wasn't paying attention to. That means he sometimes immediately starts shooting if you put him onto Overwatch. He does, and he doesn't even get a kill, so that's inconvenient. This breaks the ambush, or triggers the ambush, before I had my sniper fire to take out the most important targets, like the heavy mech standing there at the back. And indeed, the Overwatch we do get on this squad isn't that good. Now altogether this isn't too bad, but you can see in the top right it says active 11. That means a whole bunch of other stuff has been triggered by this ambush. Turns out there's a bunch of snakes over there on the left, and a couple of the archer mechs, a heavy mech and a Muton Berserker somewhere off to the right. And now they're all coming in, and they're coming around us in particular, so we're immediately going to be outflanked, and it's towards the end of our turn, so there's not too much we can do. I was able to take out the Berserker using my big snipe that I was reserving for the mech. I tried to take over the mech, thinking that would turn the tables, but by sheer RNG we weren't able to do that, and now we're going to have to sit here and see what all of these enemies do to us. In particular, these green mechs can guarantee damage whenever they want with their long-range rocket attack, so we just have to take it from them basically. If it's any consolation, because the enemy's gun damage is so high, being on low health doesn't really matter, because as you can see right there, even at full health they can just kill you immediately. So Cortez is set to bleeding out. Pyrrhus is only suppressed by that green mech rather than taking an attack. That's kind of good, I guess. My skirmisher gets marked. Normally something I don't care about at all, but it is actually going to come in useful for the enemy. A flashbang goes in and flashes 4 of my team members. This drone goes in to stun Pyrrhus. He's having a bad time. He's suppressed, disoriented and stunned. 3 status effects at once. The mech up on the hill starts shooting at my skirmisher. It does tons of damage. Luckily, the skirmisher is a hero-type character with so much health that he doesn't actually die. I think he has 1 health left. Handy. An attempted poison there that apparently just straight up doesn't work. However, another snake comes in for an outflank and shoots down, grabbing another bleeding out on Azumi. So this is looking bad. We've now got everyone on the floor essentially, apart from Saladino over here, and immediately it's time to call the evac. Unfortunately, it takes 4 turns to arrange an evac, or 3 turns as it says right there, so we still have to not die for a bit to escape, and ideally we want to pick up the bleeding out party members. That's not at all going to happen because in the enemy's turn they just continue swarming over us. They're behind us at this stage, so we can't hide. We're taking out flanking shots just whenever the enemy wants. Montgomery goes down. I tried to take out the heavy mech that's in the most inconvenient position with Saladino, but failed with the attack. However, I do have my skirmisher who can shoot again to finish it off. The probabilities aren't that good here, but RNG is on our side. We get grazing damage, which is just enough to take that mech out, so that's another massive round of shooting avoided. But this drone behind our lines is causing more trouble than I expected. It actually just straight up takes out Saladino. It's a hunter drone rather than a regular drone, so I guess it's more about doing damage. Wasn't really paying attention to it with so many other high value targets on the field trying to kill me. Anyway, Pyrrhus is still out there where he was stunned, so he's in trouble. Tried to kill the drone and failed with the skirmisher, and then with Pyrrhus I thought, well, we might as well make a run for it because he's going to die there. We now only have 1 turn left until the extraction, so if he can actually run back to that heavy cover that's in the extraction zone, there's a chance Pyrrhus will escape despite initially being the least likely to escape. So we run for it. We dodge an overwatch. That overwatch shot visually hits Pyrrhus, but it doesn't count because XCOM. So there we go, we've made it to the back, and not only that, I use run and gun, so I can actually take out the hunter drone, which my skirmisher failed to do earlier, meaning we're a bit more likely to survive back here, and that's all good. Now we have to sit and have 1 more enemy turn and just see what they get up to. Obviously the 2 bleeding out party members we left behind are just hopeless at this stage. We can't avoid damage because those mechs are on the field, so while one goes in for a suppression, which is a waste of time, the other just this backwards trick shot with the rockets and takes out our skirmisher, although again it's only bleeding out. So far everyone's kind of alive somehow. Now it's just Pyrrhus who's mobile. Some shots come in, but he is in heavy cover, so he's very unlikely to get hit by just regular shooting. However, the enemy is still interested in trying. Another round of shooting comes in, and again it misses. In comes this snake with another round of shooting for us, and again it misses. It's all happening for Pyrrhus. If no one goes on to Overwatch, we can actually take at least 1 of the bleeding out party members with us, most likely. Or we can't, because the final shot does come in from the flank, crits Pyrrhus, and he's down. That's a complete squad wipe. We lost everyone, and indeed everything. All of the equipment and armor they were carrying, that's gone as well, which is pretty annoying and will be in the long run because it's going to make getting back here difficult, as well as the issue of experience. Although I did kind of expect this to happen at some point, which is why my customizations to the mod make it easier to level up, so maybe we'll get that good-looking squad back again sometime if there's time left in the game. Who even knows? But that's a big blow for us, and on a mission that wasn't very important either. Very annoying. All we can do is just keep trying, really. Another mission comes up, and this is one I actually need to do, the Liberation mission, so that's some good news, I suppose. We can patch together a new squad. I'm probably going to have to reorganize my squads after taking mass casualties like that. Like here, Squad 3 is now just 3 people by the looks of it, probably because some guys are wounded or on covert actions or something. Well, we'll get to that one day. Liberation's coming up, and here's another important thing that's coming up. I made contact with New Mexico, which despite my earlier claims is the actual region I need a base in to do the Black Site mission for the plot. And now the Black Site mission is available, basically, so I'll set Mexico to just do nothing, recruit troops, and maybe we'll go do missions there one day. Now I patched together the best squad possible from everybody who's still at the Avenger at the moment, and send them off for that important mission. Here's a look at that other mission we set up earlier, the other low squad size one, or relatively low, where, well, things don't go that well, but this time it's entirely my own fault. This is no RNG or anything like that. I start off with this irresistible rocket shot into a massive squad of enemies. The problem was I was so enamored with that apparently that I forgot that A, the enemies are now too powerful for the rockets to actually kill them, so it's not all that useful, and B, we're not at all in position to do the ambush. Most of my squad weren't on Overwatch, and the Joy, who is up on the roof to the left of my squad, was in concealment looking at 2 more enemy pods, and because she breaks concealment when I shoot the rocket with the other character, just because of how it works, the other pods will now engage. So we've done something similar to the previous mission. We're now fighting 3 squads at once with 12 enemies, And this time it was effectively my choice to fight them all at once. I could have pulled Joy back before shooting the rocket, and that simply wouldn't have happened. Well, I just straight up didn't. I could reload the save and do it, of course. But again, I'm just stirring up drama with the Bronze Man antics, so let's see how things go from here. I've got some hail of bullets to use, the thing that guarantees a hit, and so effectively guarantees a kill when you have double damage. So I take out a sectoid that's close to us and might have done some mind control stuff, and one of the nearer snakes to minimize the outflanking potential. But now the enemy can come in with all of their stuff. Most of them don't really do anything, but 3 of them shoot at one of my party members, Barbarossa, who's in low cover behind that car, and they all hit, the final one with massive overkill. They didn't need to all hit, and they do kill him. So that sucks. Nothing really to moan about here because this situation is entirely my fault. I both didn't have to trigger all of the pods and I didn't have to have him be in low cover. Now it's time to fight back. We have a couple of explosive shots. First we take out a purifier, which damages that bit of wall he's next to, and the wall is finished off by another explosion. I shot a fuel tank there. And that allows me to get an outflanking shot on the sectoid, killing him easily as well. I think we also killed another sectoid this round, and blew up some stuff at the back with that guided blaster bomb, killing another enemy and damaging one. The explosives are coming back in though. There's a mech archer that damages Joy on the roof, and one of them comes in for an outflanking shot and gets tons of damage there. Luckily not enough for a kill. That was enough though. The turret picks up its second kill of the mission, although this time it's bleeding out, so Jeanne d'Arc can be saved if we clear this situation up right now. Luckily we can, because the guy who outflanked us was himself easy to outflank. A bit of shooting takes down the mech, and then we take up the turret as well. Then we had time to pick Jeanne d'Arc up and generally just get everything back together before we continued on down the map. There was another turret, which was taken out without any shenanigans. And then we had the battle against the final enemy squad, who were above them and outflanking them essentially by the end of this. So it wasn't too bad, and boom, they all died. We escape with 3 wounded and 1 killed. A pretty bad mission overall, although it was one of the missions where you get to take things away, as it was a bit more significant than other ones. We grab a bunch of corpses, you use those for making various items and upgrades, and some of the researches, as you see there, require you to have the corpses as well. Next I went to the black market, sold a whole bunch of stuff. The plan was to buy the soldiers you can sometimes get at the black market. I guess it refreshes every month or something, so maybe we can still get more troops using this, even though we're not allowed to recruit troops using the normal method. This is more expensive, but also the troops you get are better, so it's probably worth it. I think I got an engineer while I was there too. Next up was an ambush rescue mission for a covert op. This one was pretty easy. There weren't too many enemies, and because you deploy on either side of where the enemies are, you're coming at them from the back a lot of the time, and you can get shots like that one there where you easily outflank the enemy. Ultimately things went fine, although we did get some damage because there was a Viper that poisoned one of our guys during the fight, and while your armor does for some reason protect you from poison damage for a bit, if the poison lasts too long, you eventually lose some health as well, and because of that we get a wound. Now to look at the Western US Liberation mission, or the next Liberation mission. It starts off poorly. My very first move breaks concealment, this time because we walked past a civilian who I couldn't see before, and that breaks concealment for some reason. They're very snitchy, these civilians. We actually ended up fighting out of our deployment zone, which is unusual. The enemy are usually far enough away from your deployment zone that it's 1 or 2 turns of move to find them. There were some right here, so we just moved out of the zone into cover and started shooting at these mutons. Tried a saturation fire there, which can miss even though it's an area of effect attack. It still calculates the probability to hit, it just doesn't tell you what it is for added fun. The mutons luckily just went into Overwatch on their turn. That's absolutely fine because we could just flashbang the room and then run in and kill them, so they effectively didn't do anything. We went through that building we were getting into fighting the mutons to the other side, and then fought everything else back here. Luckily not all at once to make things easier. And being on top of the roof, of course, gives us those accuracy bonuses, allowing us to do things like this with greater probability, getting overwatches on distant enemies as they run away. Here's an overwatch that unfortunately grazes, allowing this purifier to outflank somebody on the roof and get some cheeky damage with a pistol. Luckily that guy Scipio has tons of armor, so he actually doesn't take any health damage. That won't count as a wound. And here we have almost 100% chance to hit guys out of heavy cover with our sniper. All of the accuracy bonuses are stacking up again. So that's what we like to see. Now we're absolutely fine. The next pod comes through though, and they've got a Spectre who sends Sid here to the Shadow Realm. This is an annoying attack the Spectres can do where it's kind of like a mind control. You lose control of one of your guys. this was a weird situation where that attack was done before the pod aggroed. Then the pod aggroes, the Shadow Realm guy goes into cover, and the snakes who only just aggroed then get their first attack. I thought that wasn't how the game worked, but sometimes it does. They actually hit Rico down there with an outflanking shot, and that was another case where it was grazing damage, and if it hadn't been, Rico would have been killed by it, so more grazing luck. You can see we still have a 100% chance to shoot these guys out of cover, so it's going to be no trouble for us to kill them. We have 3 snipers on this mission who can just sort that out. And killing the Spectre on Shadow Realm's Sid before his Shadow Realm form can cause any damage to us. So that solves that essentially, and no damage is taken overall, even on Sid. We then run away with a captured VIP, not bothering to fight some enemy reinforcements who showed up. And that's the Liberation mission done with just 1 moderately serious wound on Rico. This of course unlocks the radio tower mission, so we'll start setting up for that one as well. This adds yet another entry to a string of important missions that are about to happen. I've also set up to start going after one of the Chosen. We know where their stronghold is, they're right in the middle of America. So that's a mission to kill a Chosen effectively. Not essential I don't think, but important in that it makes things easier going forwards. We've got the black site infiltration happening of course, and once the Liberation Tower infiltration and mission is done, we'll have the Liberation Base attack. So that's 4 important missions coming up, and we're getting to a point when I'm thinking of not really doing many normal missions anymore, because our squads are quite good and I almost don't want to risk them. I feel like the squad as it is might be fine to just take through to the final mission if we could unlock it as soon as possible. So I think I might focus down the plot a little bit more. I'm going to end this part here for now, simply because I've been playing this game so much to get this footage. I'm cutting so much out that it's actually hard to keep up. So I'll make this part a bit shorter than the previous part, and maybe it's easier to watch that way as well. So we'll come back next time with Important Missions Gauntlet coming up basically. That won't take us to the end of the game of course, but it will take us closer. We won't really need to do any more liberation stuff after this next liberation because we'll have so much income and just so much power in general. I'll just try and focus down the story and just do missions that give us resources effectively so we can build the next tier of stuff. And there, for example, is the next tier of weapons coming through. We don't necessarily need to get to the end game of the weapons tech tree because we have double damage, but it would really help if we could. And we'll need to do loads of like UFO raid missions and supply raid missions to be able to build that stuff. Looks like some better armor is coming up soon as well. We may also need to try and gather more intel with missions if that's possible, because some of the researchers later in the game, I seem to remember, require you to have intel, like indeed the ones we'll be using for this building right here, the Shadow Chamber. This is the sort of end game plot building. You do special researches here and that gets us to the end game effectively. You can research your way to knowing where the aliens' central headquarters is, and then you go there and kill them and that's where the game ends. So we're getting there, probably. Will we get there by the end of my next massively summarized part? Well, I hope so, but I'm not going to guarantee it.